We picked up these two Honda XL185s that sat in a barn for over 20 years. Somehow, one of the bikes was able to fire up on the fourth kick with its old fuel. The other one, however, took a lot more work to make it run, and we quickly realized we had much bigger problems on our hands. Stay tuned as we work through some absolutely crazy issues to get this XL185 running like it should. Okay, well this thing is still running like hot garbage, and we had the suspicion in the previous video that the muffler could have been like clogged or something. So in this experiment we have undone the header. Can't see any blockage there, we can't see any blockage in the muffler, but we have this thing we're gonna fire it up, open header. Well, we just had it running, we're noticing it is just spewing oil. I mean literally out of the gap in the case right there, which is crazy. Puking oil out of the head gasket. So I'm just assuming it has a shit ton of blow by. We disconnected the crankcase breather. It's pushing air out of it, so it doesn't seem like it's clogged. We've had the carb off of it again and no real changes. So this is gonna be open header, quite loud, I'm sure. Okay, that test was unsuccessful, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna do an official compression check. We haven't done that yet. And at least my assumption, I guess you're the same, is that it's blowing by the rings.
It's gotta be.
To create that kind of crankcase pressure. So we'll do a compression check to see what our baseline figure is, and then we'll go ahead and do a leak down and see if it is really going by the rings. And we should be able to actually hear it out of the crankcase breather if it is. All right, we're getting ready to do a compression check. So you guys have seen us use that tool a bunch of times, but after that, we're gonna be doing a leak down test. Now for a leak down test, what we're gonna be doing is actually putting air in the actual combustion chamber, so through the spark plug hole, and then it's gonna pressurize. We're basically gonna watch how fast this air, or how fast the air bleeds out of the cylinder. Now to do this, we're gonna have the engine on top dead center on the compression stroke. That way both valves are closed. Now, if it's a leaky intake valve, you'll hear air coming by and passing out of the actual air box. If it's out of the exhaust, then you can actually hear it over here. And if it's compression or blow by the rings, you'll hear it in the crankcase itself. So if you had like an oil dipstick or something, you undo that and you can actually listen for it. So this is what we're gonna be measuring. Any bets on compression?
At least 4.
At least 4. At least 4. You set your goals really low, and that way you always exceed them.
Correct.
All right, throttle open.
$120.
We just got back from lunch. That was a little too aggressive. If I was swimming, I would have died. Okay. Good. 120 is not bad.
No. For the compression rings anyway.
Yeah, no, I kind of expected less.
I could offer to kick, but it looks like you're really enjoying the process over there.
Okay, we're gonna get this set up and be right back with you. We've got 90 PSI here, that's about perfect. We really need to add about 80, so we're good. Now the engine is on TDC on the compression stroke. Seth actually has a wrench on the engine because it will sometimes they just want to jump out of place. So this is definitely an area to be careful, because if you leave a wrench on there, for example, and you go to put air in this, it's going to wing that piston down one way or the other, and that could be flinging a wrench. So just keep that in mind.
Not that we've ever done that before.
Not that we've ever done that before. Have you done that?
Actually, I think I've avoided doing that.
I don't think I've done that. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yep. That's a lot of pressure.
You can see all the steam or air coming out of the crankcase right here.
It's coming out of this port too.
I'm not hearing anything out of the exhaust.
It's definitely going down into the crankcase.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely seems like it's compression.
Yeah. But it's weird because it has tons of compression.
Now 120, but as a check, let's go ahead and throw a couple squirts of oil in here, kick it over, and just check our compression again. All right, I'm gonna do 2 squirts of oil. At this point, we are still suspecting stuck or partially stuck piston rings, allowing the blow-by. With sitting this long, it's always a possibility, and when we add oil and see increased compression figures, that really solidifies the idea that the rings are the issue. 160. That makes sense. I mean, it should be higher regardless, but that makes sense. So that's a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to fix this using a mixture of acetone and ATF. We'll pour it down the bore here, and hopefully it will seep into the rings and let them pop out. I can't imagine there's much junk in this at all. I mean, bore scoping it, it looks perfect. So it's just been sitting a long time.
All right, so obviously the 185 is going to need a little bit of help going forward here. I'm thinking maybe if I can rip this thing around the parking lot a few times, get it nice and hot, and just get some cycles in and out of that cylinder, maybe I can get those rings to free up. So I'm just going to rip it around the parking lot a bunch, and hopefully I go from no power to doing dank nooners. So we'll see how this goes.
A few moments later.
All right, guys, this was kind of unexpected, so I didn't catch it on camera. But it totally worked. Check this out. This thing, I was riding it on the main drag back over there, and I was feeding it up through the gears, just trying to keep around 20 miles an hour so I didn't have people lining up behind me, and all of a sudden, this thing took off like a rocket ship. Finally got those rings to unseat and start doing ring things and actually building some compression. So this thing has some proper power. I also very comically ran out of gas the second I finally got to get on the throttle and actually see what this thing could do for half a second. Fortunately, I was able to get just enough fuel in the bowl for it to limp me home. But now, this thing's a ripper, man. I think this thing's going to be a lot of fun.
Now this is a very important clue that will make sense later in the video. Seth explained that the bike came alive, but then immediately ran out of fuel. That means the bike was very lean in that moment.
Several days later.
Well, you'll notice it's, I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little smoky back here. So we're still screwing with the 185. Seth just took it for another ride, and unfortunately it's still a turd, and it is just saturated, completely saturated with oil. You know, it's blowing out of the center there. And it just seems like it still doesn't have the compression it needs. It's, you know, we're fighting the same issue.
Yeah.
And I think no matter how much you ride it right now in the foreseeable future, it's just going to stay how it is. So I think we actually need to do real work to it.
Sad, because the other one we did no real work to and it runs great.
I know, so we got spoiled for sure. So I think what we're going to have to do is just pull the engine out of this thing, and we'll do a rebuild on it. I think the mission is just going to be disassemble, make sure the rings are free, get them freed up. We shouldn't have to replace them. We shouldn't have to hone it. We shouldn't have to do anything like that. And then, you know, we do have to split the cases, unfortunately, because that oil leak is just terrible. and then slap it back together and it should be good.
Should be.
Should be. Should. And this thing's got 2,000 miles on it. I really am surprised that it's stuck like it is. Who knows what kind of oil they had in there.
I mean, I changed it.
Yeah.
And
But it's that original oil that's like kind of, you know, keeping that ring seized up. You're backlit by the sun right now. It's very majestic. Oh, it's just so terrible. Okay, well, can't imagine it'd be too hard. Famous last words, though.
Well, now you did it.
Mm-hmm. Well, this flywheel used to be an M14 by 1.5 thread, but the good old boys who had this thing changed that at some point in this thing's history, and now it's a unithread. And this is my M14 by 1.5 bolt that I use to extract other flywheels on Hondas, and it's caught a couple. It needs to go quite a ways further. You know, I'm not proud, I'm not happy about this, but we have to make it work, all right? So, yeah, this is what has to happen.
Ugga dugga time.
Ugga dugga. This is low pressure right now. Okay, all right.
Still rotating.
Yeah. There's hope. Okay, we got a bolt. I turn the head down so this will fit inside the crank, well, inside the flywheel. Tighten this down and then tighten our extractor onto it. That'll give it something to push against and pull the flywheel off. Oh yeah, it's gone. Mission success. I guess the last bit of the test is removing this, right?
Oh yeah, no problem.
That's how you do that. Ooh, whoa. That thing was wiggling, but that's like a grinder mark.
Yeah, someone did that. That's why.
So that's a regular bolt that they just ground down as a pivot. They must have lost it.
Yeah, I thought it was weird. It was a 13. That sucks.
Yeah. That crack there. Wear is not severe. But then it's also cracked there. One big lumpy camshaft. Oh yeah, the cam looks like it's in great shape though.
It's the teeny bit of scarring, nothing bad.
You hold the cylinder. Does that have two head gaskets on it? What is going on here?
That's weird. I don't like that.
What?
Positive note that bore though.
Okay, I don't exactly know.
Or did they put the base and the head gasket on the same spot?
What'd you say?
What if they put the base gasket and the head gasket all on the head gasket area?
I don't exactly see a base gasket.
I don't either. There's not one.
So this is the base gasket, and this is probably the head gasket, or no, the top one is the head gasket because it's got the fire ring, and below it is the base gasket, which is. That thing looks so clean. So second compression ring is, the gap is right above the oil control ring. And then this one, I mean, that's 90 degrees out. I'd rather that be 180 degrees out.
Definitely are not stuck.
Yeah. I was hoping they would be stuck.
Well, I got this thing pretty much tore down. About ready to split the cases and see what we are working with. Come on. There we go. This guy. And let's see what we can do here. Let's go this way. Oh, look at that. Aha, there we go. And now, the big reveal. The reveal is I don't know where that washer came from. Do you guys see where that went? Oh, nope. Yeah, there we go. Looks mighty purty in here. Not really seeing anything of note. Except a really galled surface where they were prying on it. Let's get you guys in for a closer look here. Not bad. You can see that's where some other doofus was prying on it. Let's see, it's seeping really bad right out there where the gasket's torn. That will definitely do it. Well, get this thing cleaned up and put a new gasket on it, and she'll be right as rain. Got the gaskets cleared off as good as I'm gonna get them. And man, there are some major pry marks. There's there's a good one right there. All of that. For the love of all things holy, guys, please do not force anything in between the crankcase halves. It's a real pain in the butt to fix. And you'll have oil spilling out of every single orifice like we did on this engine. So get that cleaned up and start putting this back together soon.
Now, of course, our main issue here was it seemed like it had blow-by. It had a pressure inside the crankcase causing all kinds of issues. So obviously, with our head gasket being suspended by another gasket, you see these points right here near the studs. Those black marks, that's where all the compression was leaking out. So it's mirrored on the actual cylinder there. So we had compression leaking into the studs. And these studs, that's an oil galley right there. And so that's going to be forcing pressure right there. And just, yeah, that's our issue.
All right. Cases are cleaned up, all the old materials out, and I forgot to film it because I'm just cool like that. But I did go ahead and get the transmission dropped back in, and I never realized this, how exactly the neutral switches work, but there's that little bitty tab that sticks off the side of the end of the shift drum, and that's the reference for the sensor on the other side of the case. There it is. So I thought that was pretty cool, but we have gears. Maybe, there we go. That's neutral. Well, it's kind of hard to do with one hand, but I promise it shifts.
This is the wrong side. These are all globbed up.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
But it must be done. Hopefully that's clocked in the right spot. Because if not, it's going to suck pulling this back apart. There we go. Nice. Cool.
So we just discovered something new, or Seth did. Obviously, he just got the cases together. And like any good technician, you're testing to make sure it goes through all the gears, right?
Yeah, I'm just feeling it out. I got all the linkages and the assembly for the shifter in place, and I was just flicking through everything, making sure everything jived happy. And well, I noticed there's another tab here on the shift star. Instead of 5, there's 6.
Yeah, so you guys aren't going to be able to see this, but there are 6 locations, locators for the shift pawl, meaning it's a 6-speed, but you can only find 5 gears.
Yeah, I was freaking out because I was like, all right, there's only 5 here. I can't get any more to actuate. So what's going on?
Yeah, so we spent some time rotating the engine and trans, shifting it, and it's like all of the gears are in the correct spot, which is weird. So obviously a little bit panicked because, yeah, there's 6 locations on that paw.
You know, from there I'm like, I wonder what the other one's like. So
yeah,
this will be fun.
Now, while he gets, I'll meet him back there, but we couldn't confirm because this bike doesn't have the same plate on the side, so it doesn't say how many gears it should have. So then, per the Googlage, it says that some bikes have 5 and some have 6 gears.
XRs have 6, XLs have 5.
Yeah. XL185. 6 gears. So what that means is that this bike has an XR swap in it.
Yeah.
The way we confirm this is the other engine, the VIN, matches the frame perfectly. This one does not. So at some point in its life, this thing has had an XR swap in it, which is cool. Who knew? And per the Googles, this thing has basically a granny gear for pulling stumps and stuff.
Yeah, 5th and 6th between the 2 engines are about the same, but yeah, it's got a lower first gear.
Cool. All right, well, we're gonna have to hook them up and do a tug of war then.
Naturally.
Well, we're this far, might as well pull the valves out. Went ahead and did a quick valve job on them. So those are looking good. And of course, we're just gonna change the valve stem seals because we're here, and the gasket kit came with them. So getting ready to go back together. And then Seth is making some progress over here, getting ready to install the piston. So yeah, chipping away. Well, I'm not proud of what I had to do, but this threaded hole was originally supposed to be for an M8 125. Now you see where this is going. The boogered up cam guide retainer bolt is a 5/16. They just ramjacked a 5/16 in there. They must have lost the original bolt, so they made this one. So I didn't want to do it. My thinking was there's not enough room to really open it up to, like, let's say an M10 and make a custom bolt. I didn't want to do a time cert just because I might lose a little bit of thread engagement. So I just cleaned up the threads with an actual 5/16, broke all the rules, and then whittled up a new bolt. So I cut down a 5/16, and then we're just gonna use this and it will be perfect.
Timed.
In time. All right, the engine is assembled. It's like 6:30 right now, and you know what? We're gonna go ahead and throw this thing back in the bike And it's going to light off in 2 kicks.
3 kicks.
3 kicks. Yep. Okay. All right, it is done. Time to go out back. 2 kicks.
3 kicks.
It's really nice having that one as a reference.
That's convenient. We just need to buy everything in pairs now.
So you're saying 2 VMAXs?
Well, yeah. Obviously.
Who knows? Go Juice. Give her a shot. All jokes aside, it's obviously taking a lot more work to get this bike running. It has great spark, great compression, is in time, but still won't fire. Pay attention to the throttle position as another clue. 2 kicks.
You made it worse.
Start at full throttle.
Exactly what I was doing before.
Really?
Yeah. Exactly.
It's pretty nasty in here. I mean, it runs.
Yeah.
And we know that it's going to be in better mechanical shape than it was. Could just need to be timed. We don't know how it was before.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we are going to address this in a couple days. But I'm still feeling confident. It took like 4 kicks, all right?
Yeah, 4.
Well, I think we officially found one of the problems in this thing. It will not take throttle. It's so smoky, plugs wet, seemingly with oil. That could be another issue, but you know, we finally took some time on the car because the previous guy who did it, he's a really good guy and he means well, but he did this very quickly and he just used the parts that came out of it. You know, we have no idea. So here's an example. This should have a 95 jet.
95.
All right, here is a 95 main, or 97.5 aftermarket. Here is the main jet that came out, and it's a 95. That is a 16th inch drill bit. Get the picture? Well, the next question you might have is, well, what about the pilot? Okay, now this is a pressed-in pilot jet. It should just have a very, very small, like 038 orifice or something like that. It's the same 16th inch bit that ran right through there.
More fuel.
More fuel.
All of the fuel.
All of it. So we're going to see if we have a jet. Otherwise, this is going to be a tough one. All right, well, Seth is braining hard today. And we pulled a 38 starter jet out of a CX500. We have opened up the end of it. We've taken the stock 1/8 inch, pilot jet out of the XL. You can see I've turned down the very end of it right there. And that is to receive the CX500 jet because we need it to be longer to reach the fuel in the bowl. So now I'm getting ready to cut the old jet in half, and then we're going to attempt to braze these things together. What have I been saying?
It's tricky.
Tricky shit.
Tricky.
It's the smallest thing to ever need parting. tricky shit. One custom jet. Cut the old one. Freaking silver soldered it onto the new one. Doesn't look the prettiest, but should be functional. Idle. No smoke. It needed choke to start. We are the smartest humans alive.
So smart.
The smartest. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's got to get all that old crap out. Oh my gosh. So happy right now. I feel so much better. All of these subtle clues were pointing towards the bike being very rich. It performed best running out of fuel as it was lean. It didn't want choke or starting fluid. It liked full throttle on start and smoked heavily. Always look for patterns like this to help you get to the root of the issue. Straight ice. It's running now. That's what we needed.
Fixed.
Well, we have two running XL185s. Pretty excited about it. So this one definitely threw us for a loop. Man, I don't know who the previous owners were, or who not the previous owners, but I don't know who previously worked on this thing. We don't need to go back to them, okay?
I don't know if I'd call it worked. It was more of destroyed.
Yeah.
Unmechanicked,
cousin Jim Bob or something. He can do it cheaper. So yeah, of course we had to rebuild the engine. We still don't know why they were into the lower end of this thing. Anyway, it's sealed back up. We have the head gasket correctly installed, so there's no blow by now. And of course now we have understood and fixed the fuel issue. So it's smoking a lot less and it's just running better. So because of that, we have the other 185 on the table, getting ready to do cush drive, chains, sprockets, that kind of thing, work on the suspension, and we will do the same thing to this bike. We've got a stack of parts over here, so just some miscellaneous things that they need. And we'll probably just go enjoy these things, take them on a little cruise, and I don't know, get them out in the woods or something. We got to play around with them a little bit at least.
Yeah, for sure. You need to have some enjoyment.
I mean, everybody needs a dirt bike, so these are going to be pretty fun, and then they will very soon be for sale. So yeah. Well, I hope you guys liked this video on the 185. We finally have it running correctly. If you haven't seen the previous video where we got both of these things out of the barn and running, definitely go check that one out. But I'm going to end it off here. Check some other videos out on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.